We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you is Wednesday, February 25th here in Seoul. I'm Lee-Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki.
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Wednesday, and also Wonbin's with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we finally made it to the middle of the work week and to get out of the midweek slump. Today, we're talking about a trend that's bringing a surprising dose of childhood nostalgia back into adult life. So a new kind of social gathering has been gaining popularity among Korea's younger generation. You may have seen posts about it popping up on local community apps or social media feeds looking for people to play cops and robbers, a game where participants are divided into two teams, the cops who chase and the robbers who try to escape and avoid being caught within a designated area like a park or neighborhood. So the playground game many of us used to play as kids is now being revived by adults who are meeting complete strangers just to run, chase, and play together. So Ki, would you be open to playing cops and robbers with strangers?
If they let me. I used to be open to those things in my 20s. It was all about social gatherings, both with my friends or complete strangers. Every Friday I would go out on the weekend. But, to meeting new people, studying English, play some board games together, or even tasting wine or sorts. I was always curious, and it was always fun to see new people and hear from them, learn from them, and who knows, some of them might end up being my good friends or a long period of for a long period of time. And I do have those friends who were complete strangers, and I still talk to and hang out with. But honestly, nowadays I'm just afraid to see new people. Sometimes it's even scary with what's going on around the world when you watch the news, and it became harder to trust people in general. And I try to focus more on people I care now, and rather than making new ones these days.
I can really relate to that, and also I think that's part of why it's so hard to make new friends as adults.
Exactly.
So what are your thoughts on this one?
For me, in terms of playing cops and robbers, I'm open to it. Like, I don't see why I wouldn't, but at the same time, I would ask myself, like, why would I do it? Because for me personally, I already meet a lot of people during my work when I do classes, so it's less appealing or attractive for me. But that being said, I did play the game Cops and Robbers back in school. In Korea, we call it 경도, and it was really fun because it's a very physical activity. So for students, especially boys, it's really fun. But for me right now, I wouldn't really do it. Yeah.
Right. I think that's a very good point. It sounds like whether these gatherings appeal really depends on how much you need it or how much social interaction someone already has in their daily life. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. It often feels like making new connections is becoming harder than ever. But despite that, people are still determined to meet someone new. And that determination is showing up in increasingly creative ways. From one-time meetups to activity-based gatherings, many people are now turning to mobile apps and social platforms to find connections beyond their usual social circles. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at why these trends are growing among the younger generation, different types of one-off social meetups gaining popularity, and the downsides, including what participants should be wary of. As we just saw in a video, meeting strangers through playful gatherings such as cops and robbers is quickly becoming a new social trend among young people. So just how common are these app-based meetups becoming for young people, Ki?
So these days, many of the MZ generations, millennials or Gen Zers, forming relationships through app-based services. As a matter of fact, a social networking app called 소모임, which connects people through shared interests, has more than 1 million downloads already. And what's interesting is that even paid platforms are getting and seeing strong demand. One popular app, for example, charges around 150,000 won, or about $120 for a 3-month membership. And users even go through a brief screening interview before joining to make sure they are okay people. And once accepted, they can participate in small and curated gatherings where people of a similar age or similar interest meet and engage in light, casual conversations around everyday topics. A defining feature of these platforms is anonymity. Participants use nicknames so they can feel more comfortable and open. And most of these meetups are intentionally one-off encounters, simple connections with no burden of interacting after the meeting, no necessity to exchange the numbers or any sort of contact. And this phenomenon reflects how the generation nowadays prefers flexible, low-pressure social interaction. And in many ways, it's a new social culture, digital-first, selective, and refreshingly honest about what people are actually looking for.
So it's interesting how even paid platforms, and sometimes there are even interviews, are all part of this process now. I guess it shows people are willing to invest time and money in new but also low-pressure connections. So what are some other meetups that start online but end up offline, maybe?
There are some other options in terms of these meetings where it starts online and happens offline. One example is a morning coffee chat where the admins shares the location via social media, the location of the gathering, and the participants would text if they would participate or not for the week. And people would meet up before going to work and they would talk about a certain topic for an hour. And one thing to point out is like Key mentioned, is that the rule that they have is they don't share any personal information such as phone number, their real name, or social media accounts.
So kind of like Key mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people are kind of nervous about going to these meetings because they're scared about their personal information being leaked. But I guess that would kind of prevent that fear. So meeting before also work, having meaningful conversations, and then parting ways without exchanging contacts. All of this really reflects how relationships are becoming lighter and more intentional. So why are these kind of commitment-free connections resonating so much with the younger generations?
Well, the thing is, in the aftermath of COVID-19, as this face-to-face interactions were abruptly cut off, many in the MZ generation began to have a stronger desire to connect with others in person. But what we have to look for here is that while the craving to meet people has grown, hyper-personalization has also shaped this generation's mindsets. Many feel uncomfortable when relationships become too close or emotionally demanding. Add to that today's economic uncertainty, and there is an increasing reluctance to invest time and energy into relationships that might result in inefficient, unhealthy, or overly consuming ones. And because of that, one-off gatherings have naturally gained traction. And in the past, university clubs like music, movies, books, history, you name it, offered a strong sense of belonging, place to share hobbies, build friendships, and create lasting bonds. But recently, many campus organizations have shifted toward productivity-driven goals such as employment preparation or entrepreneurship. Given these kind of conditions, young people looking simply to connect, talk, and share interests are turning to small, flexible social meetups outside of traditional structures. Again, it's not that this generation values relationship less. Rather, they're redefining how relationships fit into their new styles of lives, seeking connection, but on their own terms, lighter, more flexible, and aligned with both emotional boundaries and practical realities.
Right, and people want connection again after isolation, but at the same time, they're trying to avoid emotional burden and long-term obligations. So that also suggests expectations around relationships themselves may be changing. So what kind of connections are people looking for these days?
So the takeaway is that according to the recent trends that we just talked about, in terms of the relationship that MZs want, MZs tend to avoid relationships that comes with any kind of responsibility or any heavy liability. They want a relationship with no or less obligation, something that is not necessary or something that doesn't feel pushy. It's definitely correlated to the individualism that a lot of young people have nowadays. And personally, I think it's difficult to judge if this change is good or bad or right or wrong. But it definitely is a big change compared to the previous generation, like Key mentioned, because they put a lot of weight into genuine, authentic, wholesome connections and relationships. So it definitely changed a lot.
So rather than deep or obligatory relationships, it seems many people are choosing flexible connections that match their interests. So basically relationships that feel meaningful but without pressure. So we also wanted to hear directly from our viewers. So we ran a poll on the IDI News YouTube channel asking, why do you think young people prefer one-off gatherings. So here's what the results showed. So according to survey results, half of the respondents, 50%, said the biggest reason is the reduced burden of maintaining ongoing relationships. Another 36% point to a desire to avoid obligations, while 14% said stronger individualistic values played a role. Together, the findings suggest that many young people are seeking connections that feel meaningful but without long-term commitment. So what personally stood out to me is that this isn't necessarily about avoiding people, but I guess more about avoiding pressure that comes with it. Many people seem to want relationships that feel lighter and more easier to manage. And to gain an insider's perspective on this, we're going to talk to someone who actually actively organizes and takes part in these new types of gatherings where connections build online, begin online, and then come to life offline. That conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Kim Ji-yo, who has been one of the hosts of this whole morning coffee club since July last year. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us more about this whole morning coffee club and how it's typically organized and run?
Seoul Morning Coffee Club is casual gathering where people meet early in the morning at a cafe and have simple but meaningful conversations. We usually spend about an hour together, focusing on one main topic. Each person shares their thoughts, experiences, or lessons from daily life. But it's not a serious debate. The atmosphere is relaxed, positive, and welcoming. The idea is simple: to share fresh morning energy and start the day in a good way. As a host, my role is to help everyone feel comfortable. I gently guide the conversation, manage the time, and make sure no one feels left out. My goal is to create an easy and natural space where people are connect without pressure. Yeah.
Great. Hopefully I can join your coffee gathering in the morning sometime soon. So why do you think many people from the younger generation are drawn to joining these types of gatherings?
I've noticed that many young people no longer prefer staying out late at night, drinking and partying in loud places. Releasing stress through short-term pleasure often leaves them feeling more tired and sometimes even empty. Instead, there's growing interest in healthier and more sustainable lifestyles, not only physically, but also socially and mentally. Many people are now focusing on wellness and trying to improve their quality of life by building real and meaningful relationships. It's less about temporary excitement and more about long-term well-being and living with intention.
Yeah, I really agree with what you said. So lastly, in your opinion, what are the main advantages and the possible downsides of this type of gatherings?
I think the biggest advantage is the positive influence that comes from talking with good people who have different perspectives and values. Through those conversations, each person's life can become richer and more balanced. By listening to other stories, people often learn more about themselves. They may build friendships with people who share similar interests, or even meet someone in the same field and have meaningful, productive conversations. Of course, there can be a downside. If someone doesn't have a clear sense of who they are, they might accept others' opinions too easily or compare themselves in negative way. They can create unnecessary pressure, I think. So in the end, it's about balance, using the community as a place to grow, not a place to compare.
As long as I guess you're aware of the things that can happen, I guess this sounds like a great way to start your day. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you.
So we've just heard how these gatherings create new ways for strangers to connect through shared conversations and also interests. And beyond that, we're also seeing more casual one-time meetups built around very specific hobbies. So, Ki, what are some other unique one-off gatherings that are gaining popularity among younger people these days?
Well, I don't know if you've seen this picture, but there is a bunch of people gathered together, and then there are a bunch of French fries that
No way.
stacked
French
on
fries?
the table.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had this something called French Fry Meetup in Mapo District, northwestern part of Seoul. For example, a group simply dedicated to French fries, no drinks, French fries, has attracted more than 500 members. And there's no grand purpose, no strict rules, just people who genuinely love fries. So members gather to eat fries together, share their favorite dipping sauce, compare textures and brands, and even exchange tips on how to enjoy them at their absolute best. So 3 or 4 or even more than a dozen people order lots and lots of fries that pretty much fill up the entire table. And it may sound playful, and it is. It is also tells us something important. These aren't high-pressure networking events or goal-oriented gatherings. They're light, interest-based communities built purely on shared enjoyment. It's a connection without obligation, so community without intensity.
I wonder if there's like an age limit for this, because my mom actually loves French fries. I would hook her up with this.
We'd all go and try to find out.
So a meetup just for people who love French fries, that really shows how low pressure and interest-based these gatherings have really become. And this idea of meeting people without heavy expectations seems to be expanding beyond daily activities as well. So are similar trends happening perhaps in travel or maybe leisure activities?
Yes, definitely. There is a new method of traveling called mingling tour, where a group of strangers gather up with this group of travelers who have similar interests gather up together and they go travel together. It's basically like the French fry gathering, but it's for traveling. And again, similar to the rest of the gatherings that we talked about, it's less about becoming one and traveling all together, staying together, but more about respecting each other's personal space and giving each other more choice and freedom while traveling together. So another way to hang out with new people, but again, with less pressure and obligation.
Sounds like the best of both worlds. So traveling together while still keeping personal space, that sounds very different from traditional travel group trips and really reflects this preference for looser connections. But meeting strangers also comes with certain risks and challenges, as you can imagine. So what are some concerns people should keep in mind, Ki?
Well, of course, obviously you're meeting somebody who's complete stranger,
Right.
and some precautions are obviously needed. So you never know who these people are or how they might turn into. And when you take a look at the definition for the word relationship, it says the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of the being connected. So I honestly believe the word relationship is built for these connections to last, actually. And sometimes people seek for the relationship that lasts, not just a one-off deal. These kind of light gathering might please your mind momentarily, but when you come home, you might even feel greater hunger or sadness because you need comfort, that comfort from people.
Right, that's very true. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, to add something a little bit, while this does open a new door for the MZ generations to meet with new people, I can definitely see a lot of risks in these type of gatherings if you are not cautious. Right off the bat, meeting strangers. Although people are filtered or they go through an interview, you still don't know who you're gonna meet, and that alone is a risk itself. And second, meeting strangers could lead to unexpected situations. Obviously, good things can happen and you might find a good friend that you will make a good long-lasting relationship, but at the same time, it could also lead to bitter experiences such as fights or even in extreme situations, stalkings. So just like any other situations when you encounter strangers, as long as you're taking things with a grain of salt, everything should be okay. But that's the one thing that I'm concerned about.
Right. So as we've seen today, the way people connect is clearly evolving. For many in the younger generation, relationships no longer have to be long-term to feel meaningful. Whether through apps or spontaneous meetups, small moments of interaction are becoming more valuable. And these one-off gatherings show that connection doesn't always need commitment to matter. Perhaps sometimes even brief encounters can leave a lasting impression. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. When News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Ki.
Thank you.
You for coming in. Also, Wonbin.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And we hope you find the opportunity to step out and meet someone new. We are News Generation.